So we saw with loops how repetitive tasks can be made easier, but that didn't really solve the problem of repetition in terms of data storage. Arrays give us the freedom to keep track of an arbitrary amount of variables and put them all in one place. So let's say I want to have 10 integers, but I don't want to actually declare 10 unique variables for those. So I can use an array, which will introduce a little bit of new syntax. And what that is are these square brackets here and here, and those are a way that we can specify an index to determine which specific integer we want to work with inside of our entire array. And then also the new keyword here is just a way to tell Java, hey, make a new object of type integer array and go grab a chunk of memory that's big enough to store 10 integers. So we only really need to worry about the new keyword when we're first initializing an array. And then after that, using the array is pretty similar to using a normal variable. It's just when we want to work with a variable, we need to specify the index using those square brackets. And remember that indexing is shifted by 1. So if we make an array of size 10, the valid indexes of that array will be 0 through 9, not 1 through 10. So if we wanted to access the last element and we put 10 instead of 9 and try to run that, we'll get an array index out of bounds exception at line 6. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that it's size minus 1 for the last element. So usually when you work with arrays, you iterate through the entire thing using a loop. So let's go ahead and use a for loop, because we know the definite starting index is 0, and then we can get the length of the array by this little dot length method. So that would be our for loop to go through the entire array. And using this dot length method, rather than trying to keep track of 10 or whatever size we want, is better, because there could be a case where we actually don't know the length of the array beforehand. So using your array.length is a safe way to iterate through the entire thing. So let's go ahead and store some values at our array. So we'll store I squared at index I of our array. And let's go ahead and print that out to the console. And see what that looks like. Yeah, so it's a pretty nice way to keep track of lots of data. If we wanted to have 20 instead of just 10, we would just have to change the initial size. And because we're using the dot length method, we don't have to mess with anything in our for loop. If you only wanted to mess with the second half of your array, you can just change I to start at 9 rather than 0, and so forth.